Good evening, students, and welcome to SkholarIAS, your one-stop solution for IAS preparation. I'm Gaurav, your faculty for history. Now, we were in the previous session discussing one of the most important chapter from your class 7th NCERT. The title of this NCERT is R Pass 2, and the chapter that we were discussing is Towns, Traders, and Craftspersons. I hope you remember all these points. Now, one thing that I mentioned in the previous lecture was this chapter is most important chapter from all the 10 chapters in this class 7th NCERT. Why it is so? Because two questions directly appeared from this chapter in your civil services preliminary examination of this year, that is 2020 2020 के civil services preliminary examination में इस चैप्टर से दो क्वेश्चन आए हुए हैं. तो हम इस चैप्टर को फिर एक बार पढ़ेंगे जो रिमेनिंग पार्ट है, और फिर हम उस क्वेश्चन को टैकल करने की कोशिश करेंगे. So let me just give you a small recap of what we have studied in the previous lecture. Now, in the previous lecture, we studied that there were different types of towns in medieval India. Like there were temple towns, there were commercial towns, there were administrative centers, there were port towns, and at time कुछ कुछ ऐसी cities और centers होते थे जो combined function करते थे. Like there was administrative town plus a commercial center as well. One example of this was the city of Thanjavur. ये थंजावुर जो था, it was an administrative center as well as temple town. I hope this is clear to all of you. Now we also talked about how pilgrimage centers were developing into township, and one such example of pilgrimage centers converting into township was that of Vrindavan in UP. Then we moved on and talk about trade. The trade was expanding in medieval time, and India traded extensively with China, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Middle East. Apart from that, there were many Indian communities which were indulged in trading, like there was Marwadi Oswals, there were Chitiyars, there were Banjaras. I hope you remember all these points. Now we'll move forward from here and we'll talk about the craft first that developed in India. Then we'll move on to talk about the port cities like the Surat, Masulipattnam, and another one important city, that is Hampi. So let's start our today's session. So as I've already told you, this is the sixth chapter of your class 7th NCERT. Its title is Towns, Traders, and Craftsperson. So first thing first, let's discuss about the craft which was prevalent in the town. The craft persons of Bidar. The craftspersons of Bidar were so famed for their inlay work in copper and silver. That is, they were famous. They were getting famous. They were getting applause from all around the India just because of their work in copper and silver. And it was so famous that this craft work came to be known as Bidri because it was from Bidar. ये craft work Bidri के नाम से जाना जाने लगा. Apart from that, two communities also became famous. They were the Panchalas or Vishwakarma community. What why the community became famous? Because of the goldsmith, bronzesmith, blacksmith, masons, and carpenters, and all of them were essential for building temples. They also made a very important role in construction of big palaces and buildings. See, carpenters and masons, they were necessarily indulged in these types of construction activities like building big palaces, tanks, and reservoirs. Apart from that, we also talked in the previous lecture about one of the weaving community, that is Salya weavers. They were located in this Thanjavur, which was the capital of Cholas. Remember, we talked that these Salyas produced cotton of two kinds, that is fine cotton, which was worn by the king and the nobility, and another one was coarse cotton. और ये coarse cotton किसके लिए था? This coarse cotton was produced for the masses. Apart from that, they also produced cotton which was used by the which was used in the flags, and these flags were used by the temples. I hope you remember all these points. Now these the Salyas, they were also known as Kaikolas. They emerged as a prosperous community and they made huge donations to the temple. Some aspects of cloth making like cotton, cleaning and spinning, dyeing, they also became a specific craft. Now people were practicing these craft independently. So let's move forward from here and talk about next city, that is Hampi. Hampi is our first city that we'll talk about, and in coming course we'll also talk about Masulipatam and Surat. So first let's talk about this Hampi. This Hampi is located in Krishna Tungabhadra basin. So basically located on the bank of Tungabhadra, which is the basin of Krishna and Tungabhadra. This Hampi was the nucleus of one very important empire in the medieval time. medieval time में एक हिंदू एम्पायर साउथ इंडिया में ओरिजिनेट हुआ था, उसका नाम था विजयनगर एम्पायर. Now, this Vijayanagar Empire was founded by Harihar and Bukka in the year 1336, and Hampi was the nucleus of this Vijayanagar Empire. मतलब थोड़ा सा centrally located था. Capital city of Vijayanagara was also located near Hampi. This Hampi is situated in modern day Karnataka. Ballari district के पास है ये Hampi. So the magnificent ruins of Hampi revealed that it was a well fortified city. That is, Hampi was surrounded by walls. बड़ी बड़ी walls से surrounded था ये Hampi. And one of the most important technique that was used in this in building these fortified walls was interlocking. See, there was no binding agent used in building these walls like mortar and cement. These are the modern day binding agent, but these were not used. The technique that was followed was to wedge them together by interlocking. यहाँ पे देख लीजिए थोड़े थोड़े गैप दिख रहे हैं interlocking के, friction और interlocking से इनको लॉक कर दिया था और ऐसे ये वॉल बनाई गई थी. Now, the architecture of Hampi was distinctive. Why? The building in Royal Complex had splendid arch. You can see यहाँ पे भी है थोड़े बहुत splendid. They had splendid arch. They had domes, and they also had these corbels. What is a corbel? See, this is a corbel. ये यहाँ पे भी है corbel. Corbel is protruding part को support करने के लिए नीचे जो fancy सा structure देते हैं, they are known as corbel. They also had well-planned orchard and pleasure gardens apart from having these splendid dome arch. That is, building के अलावा leisure के लिए और भी चीजें थी, gardens और orchards. In its heyday, that is in its prime, that is in 15th and 16th century, Hampi bustled with commercial and cultural activities. That is, it was the center for all the commercial as well as cultural activities. Various types of merchants like Muslim merchants, Chetis, and agents from European traders, Portuguese, they all thronged of the market of Hampi, that is actively participating in the in this market of Hampi. Apart from that, we read that it was also a cultural hub. So temple were the hub of cultural activities in the medieval time. And Devdasis, what is this Devdasis? The slaves in the temple, not exactly slaves, but in ancient time they were slaves, but in modern time they were the dancers, the temple dancers. They performed these dances before the deity, the royalty, as well as the masses in many pillared hall. What is this many pillared hall? This is nothing but mandapa in the Virupaksha temple. We are talking about Hampi, so this Virupaksha temple, that is Shiv temple, was located in the city of Hampi. Now, another one festival that was celebrated is Mahanavami festival. What is this Mahanavami festival? Mahanavami festival is nothing but Navratri in South, and it was one of the most important festival celebrated at Hampi. I hope this is clear to all of you. Now, how do we know about this? Archaeologists have found महानवमी प्लेटफॉर्म. हमें इस महानवमी फेस्टिवल के बारे में महानवमी प्लेटफॉर्म से पता चलता है, जो कि एक आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस हमें बताते हैं. और इस महानवमी फेस्टिवल पे किंग अपने गेस्ट को रिसीव करता था, एंड ही आल्सो एक्सेप्टेड ट्रिब्यूट्स फ्रॉम हिज सबऑर्डिनेट चीफ. Also, it was from here, that is, by sitting on this platform, he watched all the dance performance, music performance, और जो wrestling हुआ करती थी ना आपस में, लोगों को लड़ा वड़ा के किंग अपना अम्यूजमेंट करते थे, वो भी इसी प्लेटफॉर्म पे बैठ के किया करते थे. Now, Hampi fell into ruins following the defeat of Vijayanagar Empire. Now, this Vijayanagar Empire was defeated by Deccani Sultans in the year 1565. See, the rivalry between Vijayanagar and Bahmani Empire is not new. So after Vijayanagar won over Bahmani, this Bahmani Empire broke into 5 sultanates, and these 5 sultanates collectively came to be known as Deccani Sultanate, and their sultans came to be known as Deccani Sultan. So in Deccani Sultan ने विजयनगर को हरा दिया, और इसी के साथ हम्पी भी रून्स में मिल गया, मिट्टी में मिल गया. Now, there is one important account of Domingo Pace. He was a Portuguese traveler and he described Hampi in the 16th century. At the entrance of the gate where those pass who come from Goa. This king has made within it a very strong city fortified with walls, towers. These walls were not like those of other cities. They were made up of very strong masonry, such as would be found in few other cities, and inside a very beautiful row of buildings made after the manner with flat roofs. That is, इस वो एक फोर्टिफाइड सिटी का हमें कैसे पता चलता है डोमिंगो पेस के अकाउंट से और रिमेन्स से अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट Domingo Pace also says that this city had many beautiful buildings and they were in the form of row, that is row housing was prevalent and all these houses had flat roofs. इनकी flat roofs हुआ करती थी. I hope everything up till here is clear to all of you. किसी को कोई doubt है? If you have any doubt you can ask me in the comment section. Okay, so let's move forward. The next city is the city of Surat. Surat was also known as Gateway to the South, and currently it is we also call it Gateway to the South. Currently, now Gujarat in Surat was emporium of Western trade. What is emporium? जहाँ पे भी हम दूसरी दूसरी जगह से लाके सामान इकट्ठा कर लेते हैं. That is the commodity that in which people traded. They collected all these commodities in this emporiums. Now, this it was an emporium of trade during the Mughal period, along with Cambay. What is Cambay? Gulf of Khambat was known as Cambay at that time, and somewhat later Ahmedabad. Now, the Surat was gateway for trade with West Asia. That is, the trade with West Asia was conducted via Surat at that time. Surat is located on the western coast of India in the state of Gujarat. I hope you know this. Now, Surat has also been called the gateway to the Makkah. Since it is gateway to the west and Makkah is located to the west of India, it was also the gateway to the Makkah. And many pilgrim ships set sail from here. And this is another reason why it was known as gateway to Makkah. Now, this city was a cosmopolitan. What is cosmopolitan now? एक ऐसा शहर जहाँ जहाँ लोग जगह जगह से आके रहते थे. That is, from all around the world, people lived here in Surat. Some few came for trading activities, few came for some other works. So that is why it became a cosmopolitan, and people from all caste and creeds from India as well lived in Surat. In 17th century, Portuguese, Dutch, and English established their factories and warehouses at Surat. Now, see, whenever we talk about factories in early medieval or early modern times, these factories were not the production units. ये स्टोर हाउसेज हुआ करती थी. इन फैक्ट्रीज में कुछ प्रोड्यूस नहीं हुआ करता था. Now, one chronicler, that is Ovington, who was English chronicler, wrote an important account about the port of Surat. He said that in 1689, on an average, hundreds of ships from different countries could be found anchored at the port of Surat at any given point of time. किसी भी टाइम पे यहाँ पे 100 से ज्यादा या 100 शिप या 100 से ज्यादा शिप दूसरी दूसरी कंट्री से एंकर्ड रहते थे, मतलब खड़े रहते थे, बांध के रखा जाता था शिप्स को कि बहन आ जाए वापस, इसलिए एंकर्ड या बांध के रखते थे. So why this his account is important to us? See, he was not from India, so he did not write any account just to praise the king. So it was quite a neutral account. That is what makes it important. Now, there were also several retail and wholesale shops, and these retail and wholesale shops were selling cotton. See, up till the advent of modern industry, cotton was very important commercial crop. Cotton की बहुत ही ज़्यादा important commercial crops थी, not just in India but all over the world. And India's cotton was one of the finest at that time. तो cotton में जो trade हुआ करता था वो बहुत ज़्यादा था when we in terms of monetary value. The textile of Surat was also famous for their gold lace borders. Zari का काम बोलते हैं इन्हें. Gold lace border, they are known as zari, and it was famous in West Asia, Africa, and Europe. Now, the state also had responsibility to take care of all the people who were coming to Surat. So they built numerous rest houses to take care of the need of people from all around the world who came to the city of Surat for trading activities. There were also magnificent buildings and innumerable pleasure parks. Apart from that, two communities that were important is Kathiawar, Seth and Mahajans. They were the money changers and they had huge banking houses at Surat. Very, very important. These banking houses at Surat, they are very important. It is noteworthy that Surat's hundi were honored in far off market. That is Surat की जो हुंडी हुआ करती थी, ये दूर दूर के मार्केट तक फेमस थी and they were accepted there. और ये कितने दूर दूर तक फेमस थी? They were famous in Cairo. Cairo is in Egypt. Barsa, which is in Iraq, and Antwerp, which is in Belgium. Now, what exactly are these hundis? Hundi is a note recording deposit made by a person. Now, suppose you have 10,000 cash, you go to this money exchangers and you give that 10,000 to this money exchanger. In return, this money exchanger will give you a receipt that yes, you have deposited 10,000 rupees. And this receipt was known as hundi. It was a bill of exchange. Now you can go to Cairo, give this hundi to another money exchanger, and you can get this the 10,000 rupees at far off place, that is in Cairo or in Antwerp, Belgium. So now you understand what these hundis are. They are the bill of exchange. See, वो लोग कैश इसलिए ही नहीं लेके घुमा करते थे कि लूटपाट का डर तो तब भी था जैसे आज है. Today also we do not carry as much cash. So at that time also this thinking was prevalent and people carried these bill of exchanges instead of carrying cash. So let's move forward now. However, Surat began to decline towards the end of 17th century. 17th century के end में ये सूरत जो है ये अपनी declining state में आ गया. Why? What were the factors that led to the fall of Gujarat? First is the loss of market and productivity because of decline of Mughal Empire. With the decline of Mughal Empire, यहाँ का market और यहाँ की activities, productive activities decline पे चली गई. Apart from that, another reason was Portuguese came and they controlled all the sea routes. ये जो सी रूट्स थे पोर्चुगीज कंट्रोल करने लगे. पोर्चुगीज अडॉप्टेड वन पॉलिसी विच इज नोन एज द पॉलिसी ऑफ ब्लू वाटर. और इस ब्लू वाटर पॉलिसी के तहत वो अरेबियन सी और इंडियन ओशन का काफी सारा ट्रेड रूट कंट्रोल करने लगे थे. एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, सूरत ऑल्सो फेस स्टिफ कॉम्पिटिशन फ्रॉम बॉम्बे दैट इज प्रेजेंट डे मुंबई. यहाँ इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने अपना हेडक्वार्टर स्टैब्लिश कर लिया था इन द ईयर 1668 एंड विद स्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ बॉम्बे सूरत the position of Surat further declined. I hope this is clear to all of you. Now, Surat is active commercial center even today. Now, another important fact about Surat is located on the bank of river Tapti. And Tapti is one of the western flowing rivers. There are only two western flowing rivers in this central India. One is Narmada and another one is Tapti. So Tapti is a western flowing river and Surat is situated on its bank. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move forward and talk about next city, that is Masulipattnam. Fishing in troubled waters. This Masulipattnam is known as Machilipatnam currently, and it is situated on the bank of river Krishna. Krishna के delta पे ये Masulipattnam situated है, and it is situated in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Now, this was a center of intense activity in 17th century. Both the Dutch and English East India Company attempted to control Masulipattnam as it became the important port on the coast of Andhra Pradesh. See, there are lot many ports in this city. Oh, I'm sorry, on this eastern side. But this Masulipattnam, it became very important because it was situated in Andhra Pradesh. बाकी सारे नीचे हैं and यहाँ पे territories बीच में change होती रहती थी. Now, one such important concept I would like to tell you that India did not trade it directly with Europe in the early medieval India. At that time, trade with Europe was conducted via Middle Eastern, that is Western Asian nation. I'm sorry, at that time they were not nations but kingdoms. जो ये मिडिल ईस्ट किंगडम्स थे इनके वाया ट्रेड हुआ करता था मेडिवल टाइम में यूरोप के साथ. इट वाज पोर्चुगीज सेलर वास्को डे गामा हु डिस्कवर्ड सी रूट टू इंडिया वाया केप ऑफ गुड होप्स. केप ऑफ गुड होप्स को सराउंड करता हुआ वास्को डे गामा कैलिकट के पोर्ट पे आया और इसने डिस्कवर किया इंडिया से सी रूट. एंड कॉन्सिक्वेंटली other European nations also came to India. So first came Portuguese, then came Dutch, then came English, then came French. सो डच एंड इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी आपस में लड़ रहे थे मसूलीपट्टनम के पोर्ट को ऑक्यूपाई करने के लिए, इसको कैप्चर करने के लिए. नाउ द फोर्ट एट मसूलीपट्टनम वाज बिल्ट बाय डच. दिस सेज दैट डच इनमें से थोड़ा सा जीत गया होगा. Now, see, this is Golconda, and Masulipattnam was under this Golconda dynasty, and this Golconda empire at that time was ruled by Qutub Shahi dynasty. And this Qutub Shahi dynasty then imposed monopoly over the sale of textile, over the sale of spices and other items. And why they did so? So as to prevent the trade from passing on into the hands of ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनीज. ये सारा ट्रेड ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के हाथ में ना चला जाए, इसलिए उन्होंने बोला कि टेक्सटाइल में, स्पाइसेस में और कुछ और आइटम्स में सिर्फ हम ट्रेड करेंगे अभी. Now, there was fierce competition among various trading groups at that time. Like there were nobles from Golconda, there were Persian merchants, there were Telugu Komati Chetis, and European traders. And they all made this city very populous as well as prosperous. That is, यहाँ भीड़ भी इन्हीं लोगों ने लगाई और इनके यहाँ पैसा भी इन्हीं लोग लेके आए. Now what happened is Mughals, that is Mughals, that at that time they were ruled by Aurangzeb. I'm sorry. Let's take a break for a couple of seconds. तब तक किसी को कोई डाउट हो तो पूछ सकते हैं. You can ask all your doubts in the comment section. Okay, so let's move forward now. Now what happened is, while everything was going good, these Mughals were ruling over Delhi and northern India. What happened is, now these Mughals wanted to extend their control over these Golconda, and they sent one of their governors, Mir Jumla, who was also a merchant. और इस मीर जुमला ने क्या किया? Divide and rule. He began to play off these Dutch and English against each other, who were already fighting to gain control over the Masulipattnam, in which Dutch made a fort. So थोड़ी सी एज लेके डच आगे था, बट मीर जुमला को भेजा गया मुगल्स द्वारा. एंड who was the Mughal emperor at that time? It was Aurangzeb. Now this Aurangzeb annexed this region of Golconda, and this caused European companies to look for alternatives. That is, अब मसूलीपट्टनम तो चला गया था, तो इनको अब एक नया अल्टरनेटिव चाहिए था अपने ट्रेड को कमेंस करने के लिए, अपने ट्रेड को कैरी आउट करने के लिए. Now, what happened is these East India companies, these Europeans, they were also smart. Now they started changing their policy. It was a part of their new policy of this English East India Company कि हमें अब सिर्फ ऐसे लोग, ऐसे पोर्ट नहीं चाहिए जो कि हिंटरलैंड को पोर्ट से कनेक्ट करें. दैट इज, जो प्रोडक्शन सेंटर्स होते थे हिंटरलैंड में, जैसे कि यहाँ मसूलीपट्टनम है, तो इसका हिंटरलैंड क्या हो गया? ये नियर बाय जो भी टेरिटरी होगी, जैसे गोलकोंडा अभी तो इस मैप में दिख रहा है, तो इसको मान लेते हैं कि ये हिंटरलैंड हो गया. तो ऐसे ही इसके लिए सूरत के लिए अहमदाबाद हो गया. So सिर्फ ऐसे नहीं चाहिए जो कि production centers which are located in the hinterland. We do not want these ports which will connect the production centers of hinterland to the harbor. But now we want these new trading centers which will also have political, administrative and commercial roles, so that our commercial interests can be preserved. अब हमें ऐसे ports चाहिए थे जहां से हम ट्रेडिंग सेंटर्स थोड़ी से, आई एम सॉरी, पॉलिटिकल, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव और कमर्शियल रोल्स भी जो सेंटर्स करें. सी, they all these Europeans came to India purely with commercial interest in the beginning. In order to preserve their commercial interest, they started interfering with the local politics, and they started gaining control of administration of the area as well. So that is why this change in policy was important. This point was important to take care that कि हाँ, इन लोगों को अपना commercial interest बनाना था, इसलिए इनने अपनी policies change करी. Now, as the company traders moved to Bombay, Calcutta, which is modern day Kolkata, and Madras, Masulipattnam lost both its merchants and prosperity and decline in course of 18th century. 18th century तक ये काफी decline में आ चुका था, क्योंकि बॉम्बे, कैलकाटा और मद्रास ये काफी prominence में आ चुके थे. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move forward. Now let's discuss about the new towns and traders. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the towns and traders of early medieval times. Now we discuss about the new towns and traders जो कि यूरोपियंस के आने के बाद established हुए. In the 16th and 17th century, European countries were searching for spices and textile, and all these Indian spices and textile they became very popular in Europe as well as in West Asia. Now English, Dutch, French formed East India companies. इन लोगों ने सबने अपनी companies बनाई and they expanded their commercial activities in the East. Initially, great Indian traders there were Mullah Abdul Ghaffur and Vrijji Vora. ये ऐसे traders थे who owned large ships in India, large number of ships in India, and they were the prominent traders of India. But European companies came with naval power. इनके पास naval power थी and they started taking control of the sea routes to India and they forced all these Indian traders like Mullah Abdul Ghaffur and Vrijji Vora to work for them as their agent. Ultimately, English emerged victorious amongst this battle. That is, in सब में कौन Portuguese, Dutch, French इन सब के battle में English emerged victorious and they gained commercial and political power in the Indian subcontinent. Now, with increase in demand for goods like the textile led to a great expansion of craft. What was this craft now? Like crafts like spinning, weaving, bleaching, dyeing. ये सारे craft को बहुत ज़्यादा expansion मिलने लगा textile के flourish के साथ. With this, more and more people were now taking up Indian textiles designs. I'm sorry. More and more people now taking up these independent jobs and Indian textile design just became increasingly redefined. However, this period also saw decline of independence of craft persons. Craft persons की independence decline होती जा रही थी. Why it is so? Because they all started working on the system of advance. Now, what is the system of advance? It means that they had to weave clothes which were already promised to European agents. Just like we have contract farming में क्या होता है? Farmers grow their crops and they sell it to the person who have contracted with them, that is who has signed contract with them. जिसने भी उनके साथ contract sign किया होता है उनको ये अपनी crops बेच देते हैं. And this was the system of advance. ये अपना कॉटन उन्हीं को बेचते थे जिन भी यूरोपियंस को इनने प्रॉमिस किया होता था. Now these weavers they no longer had the liberty of selling their own clothes. They do not have the liberty to design their own clothes. ये सिर्फ कंपनी की भेजी गई डिजाइन्स को रीडिजाइन करते थे, उन्हीं को फर्निश करते थे और इन्हीं को बेच दिया करते थे. The 18th century saw the rise of Bombay, Calcutta and Madras. Now these were the nodal cities and today also they are the prominent capitals. Craft and commerce underwent a major change as merchant artisans such as weavers were moved into the black towns. What are these black towns? These were the towns that were established by these European companies. ये आए इनने the commercial centers के आजू बाजू towns बना दिए and all the Indians were shifted to these towns and they were called the black towns. The black or the native traders and the craft persons were confined here, while white rulers they occupied superior residencies like Fort St. George. Where is Fort St. George? It is in Madras. And Fort St. William. Where is this? It is in Calcutta. Now, this Fort St. George, it was built by Francis. They just remember this. And this Fort William, it was built by Robert Clive. I hope everything up till here is clear to all of you. किसी को कोई डाउट है तो कमेंट सेक्शन में देखे ना आस्क मी. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's summarize what we have studied. The metal handicraft from Bidar was very famous and it came to be known as Bidri. जो handicraft था वो बिदरी के नाम से जाना जाने लगा. Similarly, Salyar or Kaikolar was the community of weavers. Then we talked about Hampi. This Hampi is located on Krishna and Tungabhadra basin. It is located on the bank of Tungabhadra river. It was the nucleus of Vijayanagar Empire, which was founded in 1336 by Harihar and Bukka. it was a well fortified cities. Now there were complexes in Hampi. It had splendid arches. There were domes, pillared halls. There were also orchards and pleasure garden. It was also a major commercial center. Hampi fell into the ruins after the defeat of this Vijayanagar Empire by Deccanese Sultans. Who were these Deccanese Sultans? Bahmani Empire broke into 5 Deccan Sultanates and they collectively came to be known as Deccani Sultans. Then is Surat. Surat is in Gujarat and was an emporium of Western trade during the Mughal period. Surat was also known as gateway to the west. Apart from that, it was also known as gateway to Makkah. Europeans established their factories and warehouses at Surat, but these factories did not play any production role at that time. These were not the center for production, they were just storehouses. Now, textile of Surat was very famous. One such thing was zari, जो gold lace border होती थी, इनको zari कहते थे. They were very famous. Surat's hundi were honored in far off places like Cairo in Egypt and Antwerp in Belgium. Then we moved on to talk about Masulipatam. It was an active commercial center in 17th century. The fort at Masulipatam was first built by Dutch. Then Mughal began expanding their power over the Golconda and उनने अपने गवर्नर यहाँ पे भेज दिया था गोलकोंडा में, was Mir Jumla, and he started playing this Dutch and English against each other. Now, as the company traders moved to Bombay, Masulipatam lost its importance, और new commercial centers आ गए थे अब, which were Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. I hope everything is clear. Now, let's take up a couple of questions. Which of the following phrases define the nature of hundi, generally referred to in the sources of post Harsha period? Post Harsha period में hundi क्या चीज थी? An advisory issued by king to his subordinates, a diary to be maintained for daily accounts, a bill of exchange, an order from feudal lords to his subordinates. Now try to answer this question and then we'll start the discussion. Now, this question came up in this year's Civil Services Examination 2020. So, as we have discussed in this lecture, that hundis were the bill of exchange. और ये मनी एक्सचेंजर्स के पास जाके आप कुछ पैसा देते थे तो उसके रिटर्न में वो एक स्लिप दिया करते थे, एंड दैट स्लिप वाज नोन एज हुंडीज. ये बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज थे एंड दे वर फेमस जो वर्ल्ड वाइड, दैट इज इन अफ्रीका, इन इजिप्ट, इन सब जगह पे हुंडीज काफी ज्यादा फेमस थी. So hundi was a bill of exchange, which makes C the correct option. So let's move forward. Now again, Surat was famous for which of the following things in medieval times? Textile, hundis, ports, and banking houses. Now you need to find the correct option from the above given points and then mark the correct option. So let's start the discussion. Zari of Surat was famous. Yes, hundis were famous. Surat was a port city. Ports was also famous. And since these hundis were issued by banking house and money exchanges, so ये banking house और money exchanges जो होते थे, money changers, यही hundi issue किया करते थे. So these banking houses were also famous. So which makes all of them very famous, and D the correct option. Option D correct है. So that's it from my side for today. Have a safe and prosperous Diwali. Thank you.